At 45,000 feet above the Caribbean Sea, silence ruled the skies. Beneath the darkness, the ocean shimmered faintly, unaware of what loomed above. Cutting through the night like a phantom, a U.S. Air Force B-2 Spirit bomber drifted soundlessly, its black silhouette melting into the void. No lights, no radar signature. Pure invisibility. Venezuelan radar stations along the coast scanned frantically. Nothing appeared. Screens flickered with false calm, while one of the most advanced stealth bombers in the world glided unseen. Inside, the Spirit pilots executed a simulated reconnaissance mission, testing how close they could fly before anyone noticed. The result, complete radar blindness. For Venezuela's air defenses, this was a silent humiliation, and an invisible visitor had crossed their doorstep without a trace. For the United States, it was a reminder of dominance. The Caribbean night had just witnessed a ghost, but this was only the beginning. What followed would expose the true reach of American stealth power. 0600 hours, Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri. The dawn sky was pale and cold as crews moved with silent precision around a matte black aircraft sitting alone on the runway. The B-2 Spirit tail number 82-1070 call sign, Ghost 13, had been undergoing pre-flight for the past 6 hours. The mission was officially listed as routine long-range navigation and systems validation. In truth, it was part of Operation Silent Spear, a classified test of the U.S. Air Force's global stealth readiness in response to emerging tensions in the Caribbean Basin. By 0700 hours, both pilots, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Hawk Danner and Captain Aaron Lowell, climbed into the pressurized cockpit, sealing themselves inside a black capsule of sensors and shadow. Once the massive hangar doors opened, ground crews backed away. The twin General Electric F-118 engines spooled up their whispering hum, masked by the night wind. The B-2 rolled forward, its crescent silhouette slicing through the mist. Within minutes, it lifted off, climbing steeply through layers of cloud until the Earth disappeared beneath it. Its flight path was a masterpiece of calculation across the Gulf of Mexico, descending to a radar-evading altitude before drifting undetected toward the Caribbean. Every element, altitude, engine, heat management, electromagnetic signature had been engineered for one goal: invisibility. As Ghost 13 crossed the 23rd parallel, Venezuelan radar systems along Isla Margarita and Puerto La Cruz began routine sweeps. Operators monitored screens filled with faint echoes, commercial flights, cargo ships, the clutter of tropical storms. Nothing seemed unusual. Yet within that very clutter, the B-2 was already there, cloaked in a radar-absorbing field of composite materials and plasma diffusion technology. At 30,000 feet, the Spirit's onboard system switched to passive mode. Danner monitored the terrain mapping radar, careful not to emit signals that could give them away. Below, the emerald glow of Venezuela's coastline shimmered faintly against the Black Sea. The mission profile required them to simulate a reconnaissance run over international waters less than 200 miles off the Venezuelan coast. To the naked eye, or even the most advanced radar arrays, the bomber might as well have been a shadow in the wind. Meanwhile, at Venezuela's Central Air Defense Command in Maracay, Major Esteban Ruiz received a report from a coastal radar outpost, Sector Bravo 7, reports intermittent static interference, possible weather anomaly. Ruiz frowned, but said nothing. He knew their Chinese-supplied JY-27A radar systems were among the best in South America, capable of detecting low, observable aircraft. But that morning, the Caribbean sky was unusually calm. No storms, no interference, only silence. He dismissed the alert. At precisely 0927 hours, Ghost 13 reached its waypoint. The aircraft's synthetic aperture radar silently mapped coastal defense installations, naval yards, and electronic emissions across northern Venezuela. The information, encrypted, compressed, and transmitted via satellite relay, reached Stratcom headquarters in less than 8 seconds. From there, analysts would test Venezuela's radar reaction times against the Ghost's movements. They found none. Not a single radar sweep registered the bomber's presence. Even when the aircraft's path brought it within detection range of the early warning site at La Guaira, no system alarmed. At 0935, the Spirit began its return arc banking west toward open ocean. Danner noted a faint atmospheric flicker on his displays, the trace reflection of Venezuelan radar scanning high-altitude airspace. The aircraft's stealth coatings absorbed nearly all of it, reflecting less radar energy than a bird. The pilots exchanged a silent glance. "We're ghosts," Lowell murmured. Thousands of feet below, aboard the Venezuelan Navy's ARV Mariscal Sucre frigate, sonar operators were running anti-submarine drills. None of them had any idea a foreign bomber was hovering invisibly overhead. Even the ship's air defense radar, rotating lazily in the sun, saw nothing but clean blue sky. As the Spirit climbed out toward international airspace, its sensors recorded everything: frequency data, radar sweeps, communication bursts, building a complete profile of Venezuela's air defense behavior. It was a simulated operation, but the implications were real. By 1,100 hours, the mission was officially complete. Ghost 13 turned north, ascending to 50,000 feet. The Caribbean stretched endlessly beneath it, silent, bright, and unaware. The pilots switched off their passive sensors, engaging long-range navigation. Home was 10 hours away. Back in Maracay, Major Ruiz was no longer calm. Two separate radar posts had reported short bursts of interference at the same time. Cross-checking frequency logs revealed nothing: no trace, no heat signatures, no transponders. Ruiz ordered the radar systems recalibrated, assuming a software glitch. But deep down, a chill crept in. The reports matched the same time frame when U.S. activity had been rumored in the Caribbean the previous month. Within the next 24 hours, a single encrypted communique reached the Venezuelan Defense Ministry. It came from a NATO intelligence liaison citing possible stealth aircraft activity detected indirectly through satellite thermal anomalies over the Caribbean. No images, no confirmation, just a shadow in the data. For Venezuela, it was an insult. For the United States, it was a silent message to any nation watching the region closely, a reminder that invisibility could be more powerful than firepower. When Ghost 13 finally touched down at Whiteman Air Force Base, its black surface was still cold to the touch. Ground crews swarmed around it, logging data and system diagnostics. The pilots disembarked, silent eyes still adjusting from hours of darkness. They'd flown across an entire hemisphere, bypassed one of South America's densest radar networks, and returned unseen. No records of the flight would ever appear publicly. The mission officially did not occur. But deep inside the Pentagon's Stealth Operations Division, one phrase was written into the classified summary report: complete radar evasion confirmed. Total operational success. Recommend escalation of stealth readiness for Caribbean theater simulations. It was not just a test, it was a rehearsal for the future. And somewhere in Caracas, an uneasy silence hung over the Defense Ministry. The sky had been clear, the systems had been running perfectly, and yet, something had passed right through them. Something invisible, untouchable. The Age of Shadows had returned to the Caribbean. The morning after the mission, the air inside Venezuela's National Air Defense Operations Center in Maracay felt heavier than usual. Technicians moved between dimly lit consoles, rechecking every radar frequency. Major Esteban Ruiz stood before a wall-sized map glowing faintly with the outlines of the northern coast. He had been awake for nearly 18 hours, replaying radar logs from the previous day. Every scan showed the same thing: a gap. A sudden 3-minute blackout of static interference spreading across multiple coastal stations. No storm cells, no electromagnetic spikes, nothing that could explain it. By noon, the situation reached the desk of General Arturo Manrique, head of Venezuela's Integrated Air Defense Command. Manrique was a veteran of the old Cold War surveillance projects. He had seen U-2 flight's SR-71 reconnaissance patterns and once claimed to have tracked an F-117 over Colombia in the late 1990s. But this was different. The data wasn't missing, it was erased by perfection. The general ordered a full diagnostic of the Chinese-made JY-27A radar network. These systems were designed to detect low observable aircraft at long range using meter wave frequencies. Engineers recalibrated antennas, checked for software tampering, even consulted Chinese technicians via secure channels. every test came back nominal. The systems had been fully functional during the window of disappearance. That was the first real sign something had gone terribly right for the Americans. Ruiz replayed the event in simulation mode. At 0927, local time 3 radar sites Puerto La Cruz, La Guaira, and Coro registered a faint anomaly, a dip in signal return strength, so symmetrical it appeared artificial. If that's weather, Ruiz muttered, then the clouds are flying in formation. Meanwhile, military intelligence units intercepted low-level chatter across naval frequencies in the Caribbean, rumors of a U.S. bomber flyover. No visual confirmation, no satellite images, but the whispers grew louder. One encrypted transmission from a Cuban relay network mentioned phantoms seen above the sea. By 1500 hours, Manrique convened an emergency session with the Defense Ministry. Charts, spectral graphs, and encrypted reports filled the room. Venezuela's top radar analysts summarized the unthinkable. An unidentified aircraft penetrated the northern radar corridor undetected. Based on timing, altitude, and interference characteristics, it was likely a stealth platform, possibly a B-2 Spirit. The room fell silent. Manrique leaned forward. If a B-2 entered our detection range and we didn't see it, then we are blind. The implications were staggering. The B-2's path, reconstructed using indirect data from satellite sensors, suggested it had flown parallel to Venezuela's coastline for nearly 20 minutes, well within radar coverage. Yet the nation's most advanced surveillance systems had registered nothing but atmospheric noise. For the Venezuelan Air Force, it was a humiliation that couldn't be made public. Within hours, emergency drills were launched. Su-30 Mk-2 fighters were scrambled over the Caribbean, sweeping empty skies and high-altitude patrols. AWACS planes rotated shifts extending radar range. But the sky gave nothing back, only heat shimmer and contrails from commercial airliners. The Americans were gone, leaving no trace except doubt. That night, as Ruiz left the command center, the horizon glowed faintly red from oil refineries near the coast. The Caribbean wind carried the hum of distant engines, civilian maybe, but his mind replayed the same image, an invisible wing gliding over his homeland, untouchable, unseen. Across the ocean in Washington, D.C., the Defense Intelligence Agency's Caribbean desk compiled the first declassified summary of Operation Silent Spear's outcome. The results were astonishing. The B-2 had approached within 180 miles of Venezuelan territory without triggering a single radar lock or visual alert. It had simulated a reconnaissance sweep and collected electronic signatures from multiple defense installations. The Pentagon's analysts noted a chilling conclusion: regional air defense systems remain insufficient to detect U.S. stealth platforms operating at mid-altitude. Probability of detection under current parameters less than 0.3%. In Caracas, rumors began to leak into military forums and defense blogs. Ghost planes became a whispered phrase among Air Force cadets. Satellite enthusiasts online posted speculative flight paths over the Caribbean, matching timestamps of radar anomalies. Some Venezuelan commentators dismissed it as Western propaganda. Others weren't so sure. General Manrique issued an internal memo emphasizing calm. Officially, there had been no foreign incursions. Unofficially, he ordered a shadow task force, Unidad de Contra Invisibilidad, to develop counter-stealth strategies using infrared and passive detection methods. But resources were limited, and morale was worse. Weeks later, Chinese defense advisors discreetly arrived in Caracas. They brought experimental radar modules and cryptic instructions for hybrid frequency tracking. The Venezuelans hoped this technology could unmask the invisible. Yet behind closed doors, their own engineers admitted the truth: the B-2's composite skin and heat dispersion profile made it nearly immune to all known detection techniques. For the first time, Venezuela realized what it meant to face an enemy that didn't need to fire a single missile to win psychological dominance. The night sky had become a mirror, reflecting power through silence. And somewhere high above the Caribbean, once again, a single shadow crossed the clouds, unseen, unchallenged, unstoppable. 2 weeks later, the Caribbean looked deceptively calm. Cruise ships drifted along turquoise waters, fishermen cast nets near the Venezuelan coast, and radar stations hummed quietly under the tropical sun. But behind the illusion of normalcy, something had shifted. Inside the Venezuelan Defense Ministry's security meetings had become daily routines. Maps of the Caribbean were pinned with red strings and satellite prints tracing phantom flight paths that might never have existed. The fear wasn't invasion, it was irrelevance. If the Americans could appear and vanish at will, then deterrence itself had lost meaning. In Washington, a classified report was circulated among the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Its title was simple: Proof of Concept Full-Spectrum Stealth Superiority. The B-2's Caribbean mission had exceeded every objective. Satellite tracking confirmed zero detection, zero engagement, zero compromise. For the Pentagon, it was a statement of unmatched reach. The United States could project power invisibly across any hemisphere. But this wasn't just about Venezuela. Intelligence analysts noted the timing mere days after joint naval drills between Caracas and Beijing in the Caribbean. The B-2's silent appearance had been a message not only to Venezuela, but to China and Russia. The Western Hemisphere remained under American watch. In Caracas, General Manrique sat alone in his office, the glow of his monitor painting deep lines across his face. The latest satellite updates confirmed what he already knew. There had been no visual confirmation, no radar data, no infrared signature, only rumors, leaks, and whispers. Yet somewhere deep down he felt a presence that had passed above their skies unchallenged. He opened his secure tablet and read the intelligence brief from Chinese advisors. Detection probability against B-2 Spirit statistically negligible. Recommend focus on multi-static radar and infrared horizon sensors. It was the most diplomatic way to say hopeless. Meanwhile, international media began speculating. Anonymous sources claimed the U.S. had flown stealth missions to test South American radar networks. Venezuelan state television dismissed the claims as imperialist psychological operations. But the footage told a different story. Blurred infrared images, satellite heat anomalies, and unexplained electromagnetic fluctuations over the Caribbean. On defense forums, aviation experts broke down every pixel. This heat bloom doesn't match any known aircraft, one analyst wrote. If it's a B-2, it's flying exactly where no one should. The mystery only deepened the legend. For the B-2 crews, the mission had already faded into silence. Lieutenant Colonel Danner and Captain Lowell were debriefed, commended, and reassigned. Their logs would remain sealed for decades. The bomber itself was stripped of flight data, recalibrated, and prepped for another mission somewhere else in another sky. But inside the Pentagon's war planning office, strategists were already sketching the next step: the integration of stealth bombers with autonomous drones and orbital reconnaissance satellites. The Caribbean run had proven one thing: the era of visible warfare was over. Stealth was no longer just a technology, it was a doctrine. In Venezuela, the fallout continued quietly. Funding was diverted to new radar projects, alliances reinforced with Russia and China, and Air Force officers trained in counter-stealth tactics that deep down they knew might never work. Major Ruiz, the man who first noticed the anomaly, spent long nights staring at radar screens waiting for the ghost to return. Each night the monitors blinked calmly, showing only the slow rotation of weather cells and the steady pulse of commercial airliners. But to him the silence itself was proof somewhere beyond those waves of static, the invisible still lingered. And then one dawn, a single operator at the La Guaira station reported something strange. A fleeting echo at 60,000 feet, lasting only 1 second before disappearing into the void. Too faint to classify, too symmetrical to ignore. Ruiz smiled bitterly. "He's back," he whispered. The Americans never confirmed another flight. The skies remained empty, at least on paper. But for those who watched the Caribbean every night, the feeling never left that somewhere above, beyond the reach of radar or reason, the ghost of the B-2 still circled in silence. Because in modern warfare, the most terrifying weapon isn't the one that strikes. It's the one you can never see coming.